investment manager for a women-focused investment platform, SMENG. So Tosin really, throughout her career, has been working with women as well as other people on how they can actually thrive through different using their finances. So we're very excited to have her. She's a CFA chartered holder. She has a BSc in microbiology from OAU and an MBA from Oxford, University of Oxford Side Business School. So we're very excited to have Tosin here. Thank you very much for joining us, Tosin. We're very glad that you has agreed to be one of our panelists today. So thank you. And our second panelist is Temitope Jolaoso. She has over 8 years of experience across multiple financial roles in the financial and manufacturing sectors. She's worked as a portfolio manager at ARM as well as at financial derivatives company. Tosin currently heads our portfolio management team, and she leverages her wealth of experience in market intelligence, research, financial instruments, and liquidity management. So Tosin, I said, Temitope is here to give us wonderful advice as well. This is what she does on a daily basis. This is what she's paid to do, really. And Temitope has a BSc in economics from Bells University and an MSc in economics and financial economics from the University of Nottingham. Thank you, Temitope, for agreeing to be one of our panelists. We're very excited to have you here. So I think the first thing I'm going to just throw to both of our panelists, both Tosin and Temitope, is when you heard of the topic or the webinar topic, money habits every woman needs to thrive in 2023 and beyond, what came to your mind? If you could give us just like maybe this in a paragraph or a few sentences, what came to your mind the first time you heard of this webinar topic?
Okay, thank you, Funzo, for the introduction, and thank you for that question. First, can you confirm that you can hear me audibly?
Yes, I can hear you, but there's a slight echo. I can hear you. Yes.
Okay. Let's see if that's better.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay. So I think quite an interesting topic for discussion today. Money habits that every woman needs to try in 2023 and beyond. For me particularly, when I saw that topic, there's always a lot of focus on habits and what do people need to stop doing, what do people need to start doing. But I think there's not a lot of conversation or attention around the biases that form those habits. And I think that where a lot of people have struggled in terms of their financial goals, it starts from the very fact that they were not aware, or they are not aware of their unconscious biases that led to the kind of habits they've developed, with money over the years. Whether we like it or not, all of us have experience with money and unconscious biases just based on how our lives, our background, how we were raised, and what we saw in the prime, like the formative part of our lives, and the form we call around the biases we know about money. Now, every time, it's just almost like New Year resolution. Every time people say, I want to start this kind of habit, and they start and stop, and they start and stop. And what has not been effectively dealt with is people understanding why they do what they do and developing habits that are stemming from a consciously addressing, those biases in a way that they can then sustainably continue on habits that are better, that are in line with the kind of financial objective or goals that they have. So I think that's the first thing that came into mind, sort of thinking about it from that lens and from that perspective.
Thank you very much, Tosin. I think that's a very interesting perspective. Temitope?
All right, thank you so much. And thank you, Tosin. So for me, in my mind, I was like, oh, it's about time we start having these conversations. And even within, if I take a sample, even within my peers, it turns out that a lot of people don't actually know what to do, and they don't even know how to even go about these conversations. So for me, I was like, okay, that's actually a great place to start. And oftentimes when you talk about money, people actually think like it's like a big thing, So I feel like it's a good time to talk about how we can break these things down and bring it home to what people can actually relate with.
Okay, thank you so much. I think both of your perspectives have actually been quite interesting because like Temitope said, you said talking up to your peers and talking to your friends. A lot of people think about when they're thinking about money habits, it's some huge thing, and that they don't even understand or they're scared of. And I think it was something that you said was very important, was the biases, the unconscious biases that we have as people, and how those have actually developed maybe different types of money habits, whether they be good or they be bad, or the biases that we carry as individuals. And I think those are very important things that we all need to look at. Thank you very much for those points. So, and my next question, I'm going to direct at Tosin. I was wondering if you could tell me how you think women can prioritize saving and investing in their financial plan. So, okay.
Yeah, thanks, Rondo. I think the very common cliche that we always hear is that people should budget, right? And then budget based on save first, and then budget based on what is left, for your spending. But I'll take it from another perspective, because we're speaking about how people can prioritize savings and investment. I think it starts first is I'll start this way with this slogan, sort of like start with the end in mind. So savings or investment is not an end, it's a means to an end. So I guess the very question is, what do you want to achieve? Why are you saving, or why do you want to invest? What exactly do you want to achieve, right? What is that financial future or goal that you want to achieve? And broadly speaking, there are two types of financial goals, broadly speaking. You can subdivide them into many other pockets depending on the situations of the individual. There are two types. The first is financial security, and the second is financial independence. So financial security is you want to at least be able to take care of your current needs. So you are earning enough, or you have enough income to take care of your living expenses. And if for any reason something were to happen, you can still sustain your standard of living for some time. So that's financial security. The second is financial independence. Financial independence is that you want to be able to sustain your living, your standard of living, even if you don't have a 9 to 5, even if you don't have to wake up and feel like you have to go and work for someone, or you have to go and get something done. You want to have enough to be able to sustain and maintain your living standard. That's financial independence. When you get to that point, the way in which you approach the career you choose, the job that you choose becomes different, because it's not primarily for the income that you need for survival. Now, those are the two generic broad goals. Now, under all of this, you have many different types of goals. You have, I want to, by 45, I want to have a house, I want to retire, I want to save for children's school. You have different kind of I'll say like smaller goals. But one of the things people need to think about is that whatever smaller goals you're having should tie to one of these two, generally speaking. If they don't, then you should go back and think about why you're setting that goal, right, in the first place. You should tie generally to one of these two. So that's it. Start with the end in mind. What is the goal? Why are you doing it? Like, why do you want to save? Why do you want to start investing? What would you like to achieve? Now, when you start with that, then you walk back to, okay, how do I get out to that point? So that's when we now start talking about budgeting. We now talk about, okay, this is what I'm paying. This is what I need to spend, because to be able to meet this goal, I need to set this aside. And to set this aside, I cannot afford to spend more than this. And then everything else you sort of fix into that what you have said. You do not have more than spend, right? Kind of like have to fit everything inside there. And then you know that you're saving this for a particular goal that you have in mind, and be it short, medium term, long term. As I've said, when you think about your goals critically, they must be leading you to one of these two. Because it's either where you are right now, you're not financially secure. So the first thing you need to do is to get the financial security, which means you can pay your bills without hassle, right? And then you have something else to save. And then the next level after that, if you are financially secure, is that you want to get financial independence. You want to start having assets. You want to start having wealth generating assets that you don't have to be tied to a job to be able to make your to make ends meet. So what about the smaller goals are there, and they have to start one of these two, and then you then develop a plan to start moving towards it, to develop a sort of like a budget to say this is what and this I have to fit my expenses here, and I start moving gradually to where I need to be.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much. I don't think I've ever had anyone actually break it down that way, because I think for me or for most people, what you just hear is you need to budget, like you said, budget. But like having a realistic goal and working towards that goal makes more sense than just saying, okay, let's just budget. Budget for what? Budget for how? And sometimes even people budget, but they don't even have what would I say? They don't understand what they're budgeting for. They just budget because, well, that is the advice that they are giving. And Temitope, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this or anything to add on this point.
I think Tosi already spoke about most of it. And I think for me, like you said, people don't know what to start from. I think one of the places you can start from is identifying what your wants are and what your needs are, right? So when you identify what your needs are, then it will guide you towards the goals you want to achieve. And then you can now say you want to start with the budgeting.
All right. Thank you so much. So, Temitope, this next question is actually for you. How can women increase their financial literacy and knowledge about personal finance?
Like they say, knowledge is power. And I think in the generation that we're in right now, Google is our friend. So there is nothing as a stupid question that you cannot ask Google, even if you don't want to have that conversation with your peers or with your friends. So I think people can start off there. And now we have research, a lot of research information out there as well. And you can start by, let's even say you start from going on Google and getting the basic information. Oh, what is this? What is investment? What is savings? What's the difference between savings and investment? Break it down like that and identify people within your peers that you feel like, oh, they have more knowledge when it comes to matters of money. When you move from there, you start from the basic, then you can say, okay, you know what? There are a lot of investment houses, asset management companies. You can identify one of them and say, okay, you know what? This is what I want to do. Try and see if I have a meeting with one of them. We have investment advisors now, right? So I would say start from the basic by checking research and all of that. And from there, you can now say, okay, let me have a conversation with a professional that is more knowledgeable about the industry or about what is going on in the market. And for me, it's not an excuse that people often say things like, oh, I don't understand this whole investment thing, inflation thing, like the ants have little strength, yet they gather their food, right? So I don't think it's an excuse. So where you can start from is start from where you're comfortable. That's the key of what I'm going to say. Start from where you're comfortable, then you can now start to build on that.
All right. Thank you so much, Temitope. I think that's really helpful because we do forget. Google is so easy for so many people. I think most of us take it for granted. People forget that any question you ask Google, even if you're scared to ask it, Google's not going to tell you that stupid. At least we know that. So it's that way. Yeah. So thank you so much for that. So my next question is actually for the both of you. And it is, what are some common financial mistakes women make and how can they avoid them?
I think I can start with that, and I will start from where your question to make this more a conversation. As far as the question you just asked, the reason why a lot of women make a lot of financial mistakes starts from the very big fact that they don't know what they're supposed to do. And Dr. has mentioned how you need to start with comfortable, get information. I'll start with saying that women need to be interested. That's the beginning point. You need to be interested in your finances. You need to be curious enough to be interested in your finances, because literally, that's probably the biggest thing around your ability to achieve any goal that you have, like your ability to be like a financially self-sustaining athlete. It ties to so many things around your well-being. So the first thing is that people need to be interested. Now, it's that interest and curiosity that's going to make you track Google, follow the right handles on Twitter, listen to news. Even if you don't understand the first day, when you listen the second day, when you listen the third day, you start understanding what they're saying. Stuff I said, like things on inflation, asset liabilities, what do they mean, right? Just be interested. That's number one. Now, because women are not interested, so the first common mistake is that there's no knowledge, right? Because there's no knowledge, they basically cannot take an active role, even when they have an investment portfolio or when they have someone that is engaged to do something for them. They really don't understand what is going on, and they just be like, I mean, not everyone, but I'm talking like, generally speaking, and just be like, whatever you do for me, right? So they can't ask critical questions around, should I really be saving money right now, or should I be investing in this asset class or this asset class? Okay, if inflation is at 20%, why are T-bills at 5%? Is that the right thing for me to be doing? What else should you think is out there that I need to be doing? So they can't ask the right questions, right? The other thing is also, people need to be on top of record keeping. You need to track, what you are, what your, sort of like your expenses, your inflow, your outflows, right? And you need to be on top of it. A lot of women are, especially perhaps those who are married, sometimes it's easy for them to just sort of like relax because maybe somebody has more, maybe their spouse is more interested in things like that and more, maybe not more intelligent, but more interested in things like that and doesn't mind doing sort of like all the work that is required for them, the analysis that needs to be done. They relax and they stop tracking, so they don't even know. Some women have debts, they don't even know, if the account has been debited, they just don't track. What you don't measure, you can't improve on it. So you can't be like me to track, right? And generally speaking, it's not that you are going to be having your bank statements run down, but you kind of need to have a rough idea, sort of like an estimate of what things cost, where things are, what your expense level is, so that when you see an outlier, you can read the bill in your head and say, no. So let me give a classic example. Your monthly expense bill, let's say groceries, food, and everything, let's say it's 200K. Give or take, maybe you spend between 180K and 220K roughly. In your head, you know that's sort of like what it is. Now, but if you don't track, there are times that maybe you go to the store and the bill is 250K, but you don't track, you don't even know whether it's more or less, and you're not, because you've not been tracking, you've not been paying attention. And people that fall into this into this category are generally, maybe you feel like, okay, I can afford those things. You really don't pay attention to what you're buying and what you're not buying because you feel like I can afford those things. It looks small, but is, as they say, it's about the principle. It's not about the affordability or not. Because if it's going to be something big, that's how you're going to eat you. That's because you're not conscious of it and because you're not tracking it. So I think if I break it down into two, I would say one of those let's say mistakes that people make is that they are not interested in what is going on actively, right? Because they are not interested, they are not knowledgeable to get the right information and to play an active role in asking the right questions. And number two is that they don't track. People don't track, and when things are deviating, look at, let's say, the last 2 years in Nigeria, inflationary pressures have been very high. Now, if you were tracking at when that thing was starting and see how your household income was going, you will pick a trend very early on that will probably be telling you that, at some point, maybe our household expense versus income is going to get to this point and we'll start struggling. Now, because many people don't track, it's when they are gotten to that point of struggle that they now see and they know, right? So they are reacting rather than being proactive to see what to do ahead of that time before that happens. So I'll stop there and talk and add additional points.
Okay, for me, I think I will go from the angle of, I will write on what you have said and mention, because women oftentimes are perceived to be more emotional, and oftentimes we tend to do things based on our emotions. And if I would take that off a particular behavior we call heading behavior. So when you see someone doing something, you feel you have to do it, right? It tends to be, like I said, because women tend to be more emotional, we might have that as an issue. So if it is something you are not conscious of, you need to be conscious of the emotional biases that you're likely to have. right? So say, for example, like Tosin said, you need to track. If you're not tracking, so if I use an example, you say, oh, your friend bought a BMW or a Mercedes, and you decide that, okay, you know what, let me also buy a Mercedes. Yes, you might be able to afford the cost of the car itself, but can you afford the maintenance of the car? Right? So you need to be aware of the biases you're prone to. If I don't use the word bias, it's like, okay, what sort of behavior, let me use the word behavior you're prone to, and be aware of how it can also affect your finances, because oftentimes our emotions tend to affect our finances. There are people that tend to buy when they are stressed. You just say that they just buy things when they are stressed. So when you're aware of the fact that, oh, this is what you do when you're stressed, it can help to start finding solutions to it.
Thank you
And I
so
think that'll be
much.
all. Yes.
Thank you so much, Temitope and Tosin. I think that was a lot for me, because I think looking at you saying knowledge and interest, and I think that's something that's a key piece of looking at it, from the knowledge and the interest. Because like we say, I don't know if there are biases. Obviously, there are. Not all women are not interested. We definitely have women that are interested and doing this. Like both of you are here and your bosses in this, so that is definitely not it. But I think for the average, for a lot of women, let me just say the average women, because for a lot of women we have seen, and maybe even from research and things like that, or I can even say from a sampling from people that I have spoken to and things like that, people tend to, and I think it was just also looking at that thing of, oh, money and investments and saving is such a big thing. It's such a big thing. I don't understand it. I don't want to go near it. And just looking at that and saying, you know what, I'm just going to stay away from it. But I think some of the things that have actually also helped me and helped people I know is not only like searching for the knowledge in different ways. So from everything from looking at maybe reading books. So we have different books. You have books that are tailored to make things so easy for people to understand when you should be saving, when you should be investing. Then you have podcasts. I'm sure that a lot of people listen to podcasts from different types of people, from different people that are knowledgeable, and even webinars such as this are places that people can get knowledge and advice. And also, I think also speaking to different investment advisors, speak to an investment advisor if you're not sure. Or the first thing, like you said earlier, Google it, seek the knowledge, and then from there, I think that's like the first step. And then you start to tracking expenses. I have to be honest, I don't really think I track my expenses that much. And I think I'm going to start doing that a bit more, because like you mentioned, if you don't track, you don't know when things are happening. And if we had all started tracking and we saw the trend in the inflation, I'm sure a lot of people will not be where they are today. They won't be confused and overwhelmed if they had seen what happened, because they would have either saved or invested or found a way around it that could have helped them combat inflation, or even find a way to better work around it. So my next question is like, how do you think, because I know that Tosin had already spoken about goals and assets, so how do we think that women can balance their financial goals with other life priorities, whether it be family, whether it be business, whether it be career, whether it be just being a boss or whatever? What do you think are some ways or strategies or ways women can actually balance these different things for thrive through all of them as well as
I think again, like I think again, the way to think about it is that if there are not like different things or different aspects of one's life, they are all a part. It's almost like a circle, like they all fit in different parts of that circle. And there's a core, like, for example, your financial goals, your financial wellness is tied to mental wellness. If people legit have financial problems, they will be stressed, like really stressed. There are not many things that can really put people in a difficult mental state than like financial pressure, right? So if you're thinking about your mental wellness as a person, then you have to understand and make take your finances seriously and put your house in order. Otherwise, you would literally be, every now and then there will be this huge volatility around your mental well-being because your finances are heavy, right? That's one. If you think about it from that perspective, right? Now, finances also have implications for children. As women, let's say if you have children, for example, you also want your children to, live a certain lifestyle, be able to afford certain things, give them certain quality. That also directly ties to your financial goals. And if you don't have children, let's say you have parents or you have dependents, generally speaking, there are also perhaps responsibilities you have to them for them to be able to live a minimum quality life that helps free you up, too much pressure from them. That ties directly to your financial goals, right? So you say I'm picking it one by one, how different things about you as a woman ties into your financial goals. Now, if you think about your career, in fact, your career is the first two things I've mentioned are like things that pull from your financial resources. If you think about your career strategy, that is an area where you can raise income and think about what the inflow into your financial pool will be, right? So it ties directly into your ability to be financially secure, right? So what that means is that if you think about your career, what are you dedicating? How are you thinking about your career strategically? How are you improving the worth of your human capital? So that's really what it is at the end of the day, right? I'll give you a classic example. It might be expensive to go and do an MBA, for example, right? To go and do a top MBA let's say you've worked 5 years and you are earning a certain income, you are comfortable, right? If you look at what you're earning in that period, you might be like, oh, but I'm comfortable, I can afford all my expenses, right? But if you look at 5 years, 10 years down the line, you look at what your human capital is likely to be worth if you remain on that track, if you do not have additional value to yourself, if you do not, because as you're growing, it's a pyramid for a reason. As you're growing up, it gets smaller, right? If you don't have certain value to yourself and you realize that I might just be here for the next 5 years. Now, where you are right now, which is great for you, might not be great for you in another 5 years, right? Now, at that point, you might say, I want to make a decision to go and do an MBA. At that point, it might be an expensive decision. That's an investment in your career. But if you look at the earning power, right, 5 years down the line, and how it improves, how it's likely to improve the income that will come, right, and how to put you in a better state of financial security, then that's the decision you should be looking for your career, right? So I've used 3 examples. The reality is that almost every part of a person's life, whether a man, a male, or a female, but in this context, we're not focusing on a woman, ties directly to their finances. The last part I'm going to say is that for a woman, because of how socially connected we are to family, to our dependents, children, and parents, all of these people, not being able to help these people with their financial needs takes a lot of toll on us emotionally, right? Beyond sometimes what we can even afford for ourselves, right? So that's why it's important that as you're thinking about your financial future, you're thinking about being in a state where you are financially secure and you are secure enough for the things around you that you need to be able to do. If your kids are out of school, for example, the woman's probably going to be under immense mental pressure just by that act, right? So it's important for you to be able to see how these things connect to your life, how they affect your overall well-being, and be able to plan for them. I'll summarize this way: some aspects of your life they will take from you in terms of expenses, in terms of what you are spending money on. Some aspects of your life are contributing to that. Some aspects are just helping to hold everything together. But you must think of everything holistically, right? And then know how you then plan towards the goals that you have.
Okay. Thank you very much for that. Temitope, do you have any things that add a different take on it, a different angle?
I think Tosin already did justice to the question, and I think she pretty much covered everything.
Okay, thank you so much for that. Just looking at it, because a lot of times, and I think this is something that a lot of people talk about. You have people that say, okay, how do you? I think it's a question that women tend to be asked, how do you balance different things? So looking at it from the perspective of, you know what, it's not balancing everything. it's holistic and it's all different touch points or different aspects of me and different extensions of the woman. That is a great way to look at it and a different way to say, and all these different things all tie back into each other. Your different financial goals are all in line with your different aspects or your different touch points or your different whatever of your own person as a or your own life as a person. So I think one of the things that we look at, so one of the way for a lot of women to earn income or different ways, or we have different ways of earning income, whether it's through working, earning a salary, or having a side hustle, or having a business, being a businesswoman. Or some women are actually not businesswomen. Some women are dependents, and they get their source of livelihood or their source of income from somewhere else. So I wanted to ask that, how do you think that these different women, or in their different aspects or the different things that concern them, what do you think are some tips for them to create and actually, because stick to a budget? So we've already discussed the first thing that they actually need to do is to set their goals. So for this, there are different lifestyles, and I don't think you have to speak to all the different women or the different scenarios. If you choose, you could pick a particular scenario and say, okay, this is what you think that this woman can do to create a budget that could possibly work for her. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I was waiting for me to start. I thought you maybe wanted to take that.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I would think for me, I would say it's about being realistic in terms of you don't want to start off with something that is too burdensome for you. Say, for example, if you're earning 50,000 and you say you want to save 40,000 out of the 50,000, that is not realistic. And like I said, you have to identify your basic needs. So, for example, if you're going to have to pay, so personally, what I do is if I'm going to, I know the amount I'm going to pay for rent per annum. I split that across the 12 months. So I tell myself, at least this is what I should be contributing towards rent every month, right? That is not a want for me, it is a need, because if I don't do that at the end of the year, I'll be out of an apartment, right? So you identify those basic needs that you have and how much, some of them are flexible, some of them are not. You try and see, okay, so when you remove that, what is left? And there is a rule of thumb, you should save 20 to 30% of your income, right? And whatever it is left, you work around that in terms of budget. So once you do that, you separate that. Once you move away from that, then you can say, okay, you need to also account for unexpected events, right? So when you account for unexpected events, allocate a portion of your income towards unexpected events, because what that then does is that when you have emergencies, because you've been doing this over a period of time, when you have emergencies, you're not under pressure to borrow at expensive, ridiculous rates. You're not under pressure to sell your assets. So say, for example, you have exposure to, you bought MTN shares, right? And now your child is sick or your mom is sick, you need to pay hospital bills. And say, for example, the price, you are at a loss from where you bought. You'll be forced to sell at that loss because you need that money. But when you have an account that allows you to put funds for times like this, and you've been doing that over a period of time, oftentimes you find that you have enough money to meet those emergency funds or emergency needs, right? And oftentimes it doesn't even mean that you have to leave those funds idle, right? Thankfully, we have instruments like mutual funds where you can invest your money anytime and you can withdraw money as soon as you can. So that gives you a lot of flexibility, right? So you set some funds aside for that, for the miscellaneous. And yes, oftentimes I like to be realistic. I like to allocate for fun as well, because oftentimes people get burned out and you need to relax. You need to be very objective about those things that, okay, you know what? I need to relax. This is what works for me. I need to go gaming once a month, once a quarter, you know. So let's see how that fits. So when you start to put numbers into those things, it becomes a lot more realistic. You can tell you, oh, you need to adjust from here, because when you sum them up and it's above what you earn, you know that you have to make adjustments somewhere. And when it will tell you where to make adjustments, your needs are non-negotiable, right? So the other things that you can negotiate on, okay, so say for example, I like to go to a resort and I like to travel out of the country every quarter, but given where exchange rate is at the moment, I can't afford to do that, or where flight tickets are. Oh, let's say, can I afford to go to, say, Continental Hotel for one day? Would that suffice? I will still get similar facilities that I would get. I'll be able to relax. So you can switch from there. You can look for cheaper source of achieving those things that you want to achieve. So I think for me, it's just to be realistic with it. Be realistic with it, and don't do something that is too burdensome, especially for people that are just starting out with the whole budgeting thing. So oftentimes when you burden yourself and then you find out that you're back right where you started.
Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, just one or two things I would like to add. So, if you are like a business person, you're running your own business, as different from you're working as an employee somewhere. I think the starting point as a business for many business owners, like SMEs, mid-sized companies, is that you need to track. In fact, as a business person is more important, it's probably even much more important. You need to understand your numbers, and then you need to put yourself on the salary, because your revenue is not your company's revenue, is not your salary. Your company's profit is not your salary. Some people don't even get to profits; they just take from revenue. They don't even wait to get to profit and say, okay, maybe from profit I can spend this. You need to put yourself on the salary, right? That forces you into a mode of discipline, and then as Topa said, you can then start from there to say, this is my salary, regardless of how big your business is. The business income, the business is a separate entity from you. The business income is not your income. Then when you force yourself into a salary, you can then say, this is my salary. What can I afford in terms of my wants and my needs? Well, a lot of people put all their expenses and needs on the business, and it makes it look like, oh, I can afford all of these things, and they are like, every now and then there is cash flow stress, strains in the business because there's a lot of this financial mismanagement that is going on, right? And then it's affecting the overall well-being. So I think that's a starting point. It's like you need to put yourself, if you're in that category. I think one of the other things I would like to add to what she has said is, I'll tell you where I started from the beginning. Be aware of your biases as you are setting your needs and wants. Some people are spenders. Some people are like savers. It is the extreme of both that is bad. Because saving money is not necessarily a good thing. Like just putting money in a savings account, earning 0.2% is not necessarily a good thing when inflation is at 20%. It might be better to put that money in an investment. It might be better to put that money in a business, right? But some people have second biases about money, and they just want to see the money somewhere. Like, let the money just be there. I want to log into my account. I want to see that the money is there, right? And so they set very onerous targets for themselves. They put money there, but that does not necessarily mean that, yes, you have the money there. That's not necessarily great financial habits, because you're not. Sometimes current consumption is better than future because of just where inflation is, right? Sometimes, investing in a particular asset is better than, even if it's slightly riskier, it's better than just putting money and looking at it in the savings account, right? So you need to be conscious of like, what are my biases? And then based on that, you consciously try to break those things. On the other extreme are spenders. Some people, when they get money, they legitimately cannot be addressed until they finish spending that money. They just must buy something. Like, some of these habits stem from like I said, our interaction environmentally when we were growing up. Some of it comes from like emotional attachment, peer pressure, things like that. You need to be aware of those things. And then find tools. So in line with what I said, when you're aware of your biases, you need to find tools consciously that help you, whether in budgeting, whether in savings and investing. So let me for example, the kind that doesn't love to be seeing money in your accounts. Maybe you set up another debit that sends money automatically to a mutual fund account. Once a certain amount, to a mutual fund account automatically, so that you're not just looking at cash in your account earning you nothing, right? If you are a spender, maybe you also find something that locks up your card once you hit a particular limit, right? Luckily, in this digitally serving times, there are like many tools that people that are disposal of people and that they can use, to build these money habits once they are aware of what they need to address and what they need to plan for.
Okay, thank you so much, Josia and Temitope. I think there was it gave us a lot to think about there, or maybe to chew on. And just like I think looking at that in terms of, I know that in the society that we live in, people don't even talk about things about emergencies or things like that, because the idea is, oh, I won't have an emergency, it won't happen to me. So that means I don't need to prepare for it should in case it happen. And I think just having that us having that change of mindset that because you're preparing for those sort of things does not necessarily mean it will happen, but it's just good to be prepared should in case we have that sort of situation. And I think Tosin, you mentioned something about technology. So actually that sort of dovetails into the next question I wanted to ask. Do you know how women can actually use technology and different apps or things like that to manage their finances in this day and age effectively?
Yes, absolutely. So, just before I answer that question, there was something I was going to say on where you mentioned emergencies. I think people should have health insurance at the minimum. One of the major expenses that can show almost all your planning out of work is a major medical expense, right? And if apart from people that are probably employed in a corporate job, most people don't take health insurance seriously. And there are now many types of products that, even for let's say 5,000 naira a month, you can get a reasonable, health insurance that gives you up to a decent payout in terms of expense when if a medical emergency happens. At least it gives you a balance on your feet, without having to break your account. So it's important people need to cultivate this habit around the insurance, right? Specifically for health. I mean, there are so many other types. The same thing for car, that's even statutory anyways. But for health, a lot of people, because it's not statutory, just be like, you know what, if you are not employed in corporate job, then people take you seriously, like people that are maybe working for themselves. You need to realize that, it's like a stitch in time that saves nine. You need to realize that you put something aside for that. Now, in terms of using technology, I think across, depending on age groups, and we have many women, there are those who are more familiar with technology, like Gen Z, maybe younger millennials, because they literally grew up in the age of technology. There are like older women who, might still trying to be finding their ways around technology. I'll start by saying, whatever so let me address both categories. Start from where you are, but be open-minded and be curious to learn, to unlearn and to relearn, but start from where you are. If where you are using Excel to track the things you're doing is what you are comfortable, very comfortable at doing, and you can do it easily without stress, start from there. Be tracking, start from there. Because because the risk here might go, there are like all these digital tools. Some people are not very savvy and they say, okay, I'm going to use this digital tool. But because of that initial technology adoption barrier, they get discouraged and they end up not doing anything, right? Doing something is better than doing nothing. So I think we should start from that. So if you're starting, when I start tracking my expenses and everything, I used to use on Excel, like if that's what you're starting, you start from there. But have a growth mindset. Be genuinely open to learning about this technology, to hear about it, to download the app, see how it helps improve what you're doing. A little of pain at the beginning, but learn it, and then you move there gradually. But what is extremely important is that whatever tool you're using should be helping you to achieve the goals you need to achieve. Don't just use it, because technology is a tool. It's not just for the fanciness of it. Don't go and use like a tech that is super complicated, makes you frustrated, in the course of your journey, and then you abandon the discipline or the habits altogether. That becomes counterproductive, right? So as you're thinking about all the tools out there, I think the starting point is start from where you are, be curious to learn, about how they can enhance what you want to do, and keep it simple, right? So that what's important is adopt the tools that helps you maintain the habits that you're trying to put in place, not the things that make it more difficult for you to keep up with those habits.
Thank you very much, Ms. Temitope. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, not at this point.
All right, thank you very much. I think I'm just going to ask my last question, and then we'll round up. Before I ask my last question, we actually have a Q&A option. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type in your questions there, and we will have some time just before we round up for either Tosin or Temitope to answer your questions. So please feel free to type in your questions there, and then while we round up with the last question, really. And so the last question really is sort of putting all of this together and sort of like in a way of what are some long-term strategies that women can use to secure their financial future. So we talked about the different things that people definitely have to do: tracking, getting the knowledge, being interested, starting from where we are, using different tools, and identifying our needs versus our wants, and just being interested, like looking for that knowledge and everything. So are there any other things apart from these that you think that are some long-term financial planning strategies that women can actually use to secure their financial future?
Yeah, I think there are a few things, there are a few strategies, broadly speaking, that people should have in mind. I'll start with the first. The first is there are different life stages for women, for human beings generally, and even for women, right? In your 20s and in your 30s, then there's 40s and then 50s, and there's probably post-retirement. So when you're thinking about long-term financial planning, you're thinking about these different stages of life. You're having that at the back of your mind. In your 20s and in your 30s, strive for financial security at the minimum. So don't ever be in a situation where you're spending more than what you're earning, where you are in a perpetual loop of catching up. So you don't have anything to save or to invest because you're always spending everything you're earning, or you're spending more than you're earning, so you're in perpetual debt. So it's always like an overdraft that you're paying back every time. And we're in a very good culture here where we don't have so much, inclination to debt. If you're in the West, right? Because there's a lot of consumption debt. There's a lot of and in the Western, maybe the United States, Canada, there's a lot of things you can buy on the spot. So there's a lot of impulsive consumption because it's debt. And so people are caught up in a loop where they are consistently spending more than they earn because before they even earn that income, they spend it. So your 20s and your 30s aim towards financial security. As a rule, never ever spend more than maybe 70% of what you're earning, regardless of what your needs or wants are, maybe 70-80%. And so that you can at least, start building that habit. And it is never really about what you earn. It is about what you have. It is about what you retain. You can be a billionaire and don't retain anything because it is about what you retain from what you earn. So people should start with that. So your 20s and 30s, your goal can be financial security, and then you go back and start working back to that. What does that mean? I should spend less than I'm earning. Then I need to compress. I need to identify my needs and wants. I need to compress my nice to have, my wants, focus on my needs, then drop off the budget and move from there and start saving, start investing. As you move to your 40s, you should be planning intentionally for financial independence because you're not going to, our earnings curve is like what's this thing called? It's like a projector. Like you get to the peak and then it starts coming down. You're not going to have that same, if you're getting close to the peak of your career, you should be very strategic about how you're thinking about what are the other things you can be doing that can bring you passive income, right? That can be where you can be earning income without having to touch your paycheck. You should already start thinking about that. So in your 40s, as you're getting to your 40s, start thinking about financial independence, which is you're building a base where you can earn from without necessarily if you don't have that job, right? Which means you're thinking about your assets. You're thinking about what the financial asset base that you're having. And I'm going to touch on a few sensitive subjects here. Debt. you should, as a general rule, try to walk down on your debt. That's number one, as over the course of your life, right? To walk down on those debt. I've mentioned consumption debt. Consumption debt is generally a bad habit. So if you're very prone to taking debt to consume, you should that habit and you need to find a way to consciously start changing. Now, debt to buy assets, you need to think about it critically in terms of your current liquidity need versus having that asset, right? So, like the example documentation, a car is both an asset, but can be a liability on a recurring basis if you don't have the income enough income to sort of maintain what it takes, to maintain that car, right? So it's both an asset and a liability. It's an asset, but from day one it starts depreciating and then it's eating on your income to keep maintaining it. So when you're acquiring assets, you need to be very careful about why am I acquiring these assets? What is it going to do for me? You hear a lot of people say, oh, there's no real estate somewhere, buy it. Your entire financial asset base is 50 million naira. And they say there's one real estate somewhere, it's 50 million naira. And you take all of that 50 million naira, then you tie into an illiquid asset. That's not a very smart decision because you do not balance your ongoing and current liquidity need versus, having that asset, right? Now, you need to be able to carefully balance that. Now, you can put that 50 million in a long-term bond or in a mutual fund, and maybe you are getting 8 to 12% roughly yield a year. That gives you current income, and you still have your, principal asset base, right, which can still appreciate in the future. So people need to think about all of these things a bit more carefully. I'll summarize by saying, there are two broad goals: financial security, financial independence. In your 20s and your 30s, you must strive towards financial security. In light of everything we're saying, as you're moving to your 40s, getting closer to the peak of your career, financial independence should be priority in your mind, right? Second thing is debt, consumption debt is generally a terrible idea. Don't be in a habit to take debt to consume for things, today because debt is there, it's cheap and all of those things, right? Generally, when you take debt, have a plan to walk down that debt over time, right? So you're like paying it down. And when you're considering assets, you need to think carefully about the cost of maintaining assets, how acquiring an asset fits into your ongoing liquidity needs, how it affects your overall investment or asset base, and what you can do, and how it fits into overall long-term plan. Yeah, I think I'll stop there.
All right, thank you very much, Temitope.
Yes, I would just write off on the back of what Tosin has said. And for me, she had mentioned in terms of lifespan, right? And for me, I'll take it from the angle of even in terms of the money you have to invest. And I'll just bring it back home. Treasury bills, right? 91-day paper closed at, let's say it's at 6%. But you have enough money that you can live for 1 year that you know that you're not going to touch that money, which is at 14%. So what I'm basically saying is, if you have a portion of your money, say for example, you're 30 years old, right? And you expect to live another 40 years, you have that flexibility to have a portion of your investment in, say, a 10-year instrument that has high return, right? Compared to if you are 70 years old, you are more concerned about you meeting your immediate liquidity than when you are younger, right? So I would just approach it from that angle. Like, you need to also consider that, because I often see that some people shy away from investments that are 1 year and above because of certain concerns. But there are times when we have opportunities that this is a very good opportunity, this is a very good rate for you, right? And maybe it's a 2-3 year FGN savings bond that has very attractive levels that you can easily buy. You are 30-something years old. You're not going to need that money 2-3 years from now. You're fine because you already have other accounts that can provide you that liquidity. So the other accounts provide you the flexibility to take advantage of opportunities that will give you higher income for your money.
Okay, thank you so much, Temitope. So we just have a few questions. I think we'll just take 1 or 2 questions from questions that we have. So the first question we have is, what resources are available for women who want to learn more about investing or personal finance? So I don't know if any of you want to answer that.
So, I mean, there was at the beginning, Tope mentioned that there's a lot of information out there, to be honest. This is literally, like, when I think about this and when I started my career, when I started my career, you're talking to do with personal finance. I mean, now you have people who have built businesses, startups around personal finance, right? You have, so there's a lot of resources. I don't want to mention any, I'm not like recommending any, but I think if you're interested enough and you go online, go to Google, there's just a lot. There are blogs, there are apps, there's a lot out there where people can learn about personal finance, right? And like I said at the beginning, the starting point is when you're interested, the easiest way, if you're interested, is be following handles on Twitter that talk about financial stuff, inflation, investments, savings, like stuff like that. Just start from there, like because there's no personal finance without understanding all of those things. The rest around personal finance really is around your nuance, your own habits and biases as a person. That's the second hand, and nobody can really teach you about that. You're the one that knows what your wants are, what your needs are, what your biases are, why you do what you do, why you're in debt, your assets, your liabilities. But in terms of what are the things available, the knowledge that is available and that is necessary, if you're going to be able to address your issues properly, there's a lot out there. In terms of the tools that can be used, there's a lot out there. So I think if you just go online and just be curious before following different handles that are related to things like this, you will get more than enough information.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we have one question, but someone also raised their hand. I don't know something. So the next question we have, I think this will be the last question that we're answering, then we'll speak with the person that raised their hand and then we will round up. How can women balance short-term financial goals with long-term financial planning to ensure financial stability and security? Temitope, would you like to answer that? Actually,
I think we have discussed them over the course of the time. So part of which is you already have an account that enables you flexibility, like the mutual funds, right? You can invest anytime, you can withdraw your money anytime. So when you have needs, immediate needs for money, you can access those funds, right? But when it comes to the long-term perspective, you're looking at assets that are more long-term in nature and are attractive for what you want to achieve. So say, for example, if I want to buy a house and I put a timeline to it, say, oh, I want to buy a house in the next 5 years or 10 years, right? And I want to start saving towards that plan. So technically, whatever investment I'm having has a long-term horizon. So I'm not looking at an investment that will be 90 days compared to, say, if I have an investment that can give me a 10-year return of, say, 15, 16%. Meanwhile, a 90-day instrument that is giving me 6%. That's already a mismatch, and I'm at a disadvantage to myself because I have an opportunity to make a 16%, right? So when you identify, okay, what short-term goal do you have? What long-term goal do you have, right? Then you start to sit down and have conversations like that. Okay, what are the instruments or outlets that will help me achieve this short-term and long-term goals? And I believe we have a lot of instruments out there right now. We had mentioned treasury bills and FGM bonds. That's just to avoid not mentioning specific names, but on the government side, we already have those instruments already. And outside of that, there are other instruments that we can that people have or that we have in the markets based on research, right? And also sit down with your financial advisor and have those conversations. These are my short-term goals, these are my long-term goals. How can I achieve both? Or say, for example, you want to pay your child's school fees, you want to send your kid to Harvard in the next 10 years, right? So how much do I need to start saving towards that plan now that will help me achieve that goal? So these are conversations you can have, and there are outlets that will enable to achieve these opportunities.
All right, thank you so much, Temitope. I don't know if the person still has their hands raised. I can't seem to see that. So thank you so much, Temitope and Oluwatosin. I think this has been very insightful, very helpful. I think I have learned a lot, and I think everyone else on this call would have learned a lot. regarding how we can all thrive, and not just as women, but as individuals now and right now and moving forward. So thank you very much, ladies. I just want to really appreciate you for taking your time out to talk to all of us. And I just would like to thank everyone that joined. We're very grateful. We hope that it was very useful and helpful. And if you're interested in anything that we had to say, please reach out to the team. I'm sure that you can send us a message or anything, and we will be glad to give you more information. We'll also be sending out the recording of this webinar. So please feel free to reach out to us, and we're very grateful for having you on board. Thank you very much. And this is the end of today's webinar. I wish everybody a wonderful rest of the day and a wonderful rest of Women's Month. Thank you and bye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.